Okay, so today I'm going to be using TinkerCAD to create a 3D modeled house. Now, if you've ever played with blocks, Play-Doh, Legos, you know that there's many ways to create the same thing. So what we're going to do is just start with one way. We'll go over a couple different ways in other videos, but today we're going to go by creating each wall and then eventually adding a roof. And the reason why we're doing it that way is just so we can practice some of the controls in TinkerCAD a little bit better today. That being said, if you have another way of building a house, feel free to do it that way too. Okay, so quick review. I've got my viewfinder on the top left. If I drag that around, I can see my work plane move. I can zoom in and zoom out. And I'm going to be using these shapes on the right. If your basic shapes aren't showing up, just click on the drop-down menu and select basic shapes. Okay, so like I mentioned before, I'm going to be adding 4 different walls. So I think I'm going to start with a box for mine. I think that would be a pretty good way to start. So I'm going to click on the shape, drag my mouse onto the work plane until I see kind of this orange outline of my cube and decide where I want it to go. Wherever you decide, all you do is click and it comes to life. So this is a great cube. When I imagine the wall of a house, I imagine it being a little flatter, maybe a little bit longer. So I've got to what's called transform this cube. And that means I'm changing the length, the width, the height, the scale of it. And there's a couple ways to do that. The first is these little buttons on either side of my cube. And I can drag that around, can transform that. Or I can use this box that I used before that decides whether I want it to be solid or hollow, whatever one you want to do. You can also change the length here, the width, the height, whatever you want to do is totally fine. Okay, so now I've got one wall. Let's add another. I'm going to do it the same exact way. I'm going to add my box, decide where I want it, select there, kind of drag it how I want it. Or if you prefer, again, you can use these right here. If you're having trouble seeing your shape like I am right now, you can either zoom in or you can change the view just by dragging this control right here. Okay, so I might make my wall just a little bit longer. Okay, so I've got these 2 walls. I'll add another. Click on the shape you want, drag it to your work plane. Looks like a grid, and this is really helpful for lining stuff up. Again, I can use the controls either on my shape or in this box right here. And again, if you don't like how the view is, just change the perspective. You can see it a little bit better. Now, this is useful right now because it kind of looks like these are the same length, but I can check myself on the grid. So I just switched to perspective view so I could see them lined up. And I can see that this one is just a tad longer. So feel free to use the grids just to, line stuff up. I'm even going to move that to the end just so it's a little bit easier to check myself. Ooh, perfect. Okay, and now I can add my last wall. You might want to add 2 and have an opening in the middle for a door, but I'm not going to get too fancy today. I'm just going to, again, select the shape I want, put it where I want it, and either edit in this right here or on the shape itself. And we can see again, just by looking at that grid, that maybe it's just a tad long. I'm just going to line that up. Okay. So now I have 4 walls. It's ready for a roof. This might not have been the easiest way to do it, but it did give me a chance to practice the controls. So give it a shot. And if you find a different way, that's okay too.